All right, so we've seen the creating of the HTTP request with the payload in it. Right, so here we are using the payload inside the curly braces. So as the payload comes from the inject statement, it makes the request for that particular airport and retrieves the metadata. Now the metadata will change here. So depending on the airport, sometimes it'll vary a little bit. So you can see here, I took these last night, and the Canton Akron Airport, the weather was basically clear, but at JFK it was actually snowing at the time. And a little while ago, we had quite a bit of snow and some wind gusts and stuff, and so they were actually releasing a special report. Instead of it saying METAR here, it was saying special. And so the temperature was in a different location and that kind of stuff. So to test this, what I did was I created some inject and in the inject, I'm injecting the string, and what I did was I just after doing the request and getting the data, I put that data here so I could just experiment with my function to see how well my function works. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to pull out a function, and I'm going to just double click on this function here, and the only thing inside there is a return message. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go over, now I'm providing you the function, so you don't really have to worry about what all it does. But so if you come over to the bright space, you'll see the NOAA function there. So you just click on download and download that, and then you can open this function. It's just a text file. You just want to copy everything in here and then come back over here to the function node and paste it in there. And as long as you've got it all and it looks lined out line by line, it should be fine. You just click on done, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to connect up each one of these injects, and then I'm going to connect the output over to this here where I call it different parts. So what this function is going to do, I'm going to go ahead and name this, is it's just going to parse out the NOAA data and look for temperature and whether it's snowing and that kind of information. So I click on deploy here. I'm going to clear out my debug, and I'm just going to go ahead and inject. So the first one I'm injecting here is just the test. This is the data I received last night. And so now here you can see this different parts here. This is where it's actually breaking it down into different things. So we have the visibility is 10 miles, and we have the wind speed is 7 knots and coming out of the southwest, and the weather is relatively clear, so they don't have it marked with snow or rain or anything like that. And the temperature is actually -9. So remember down here we have MO9 indicates that it's -9 Celsius or 15.8 degrees Fahrenheit. So then I have this second one here is the JFK. Now I didn't name these. I could have named these up in the name block. So you know, we can always name those if you want. And then of course hit deploy to redeploy that. But this is going to be the JFK from last night where it was actually snowing, and so I've got my function apparently is saying rain, not snow, so I must have copied this and I forgot to change that to snow. So I'll just modify that there and test this again. So now we have that it's light snow. So the minus sign there just indicates light snow. And then this is the special. So this one here is the special weather condition here. So just to test this to see how it works, make sure this under special conditions it works. And about the same thing here. I guess the snow isn't working, but the others, you can see the wind speed is 250. The temperature is minus 12 degrees Celsius. So that was this bottom one down here. So it was snowing. Okay, so it was light snow. I don't know why it showed a B there, but so it's snowing, and so it seems to be working pretty good, only putting a B in front of the snow. So I might adjust that and re-upload the function. But again, all we did for this was the function was available in Brightspace. I just downloaded that file, drug a function block over here, and pasted in the function block to get the starting point, okay, or for the function. So now I can go ahead and remove these, and I'm going to do my request. So I'm going to come out of the request and parse the data. So I'm going to go ahead and delete it to clear out my debug. And so we'll do the current weather right now at Canton Akron Airport. Wind speed is 200 and, or the direction is 260, and the wind speed is 15 knots. The weather is relatively clear, but it's minus 14 degrees Celsius or 6.8 degrees. So it's a little bit cold out there. Let's take a look at JFK. So JFK, it is wind speed is 11, wind direction is at 250. Again, it's clear, but it's 28 degrees in New York. Alright, so now what I would like to do is incorporate the dashboard feature. And so what I want to do is I'm going to grab a drop down. So I'm just going to do a search here and grab a drop down. And so the drop down is under the dashboard, as you can see right here. But this will allow us to put different options in there and use a graphical interface instead of the inject buttons. Now I'm going to go ahead and leave the inject buttons just for testing of the flow. But to do this, we're going to have to create a new dashboard group. So I'm just going to hit the plus button here to add a new UE group. And so I'll just call this NOAA. So we'll have the NOAA group, and we'll add a new tab here. So I'll just leave the name of the tab as home, but if you're doing multiple dashboards, you'll want to maybe create some different names there. And then you can add some different icons, but thought I changed that name there. But so and you can adjust the width of this and that, so you need to kind of add a few things, and then you can experiment with getting the width so that it looks nice here. So then you can add a label. So this is going to be airport, and then you have to add your different values. So we can put the value is actually going to be the Canton Akron Airport, so KCAK, and just put in Canton Akron, and then we'll add another one. So we just come down here, click on the option, just add a couple more. So I'll go ahead and put Chicago here. So this is the Chicago Aurora, and then JFK, and again you can do any airports, but the option, of course, you have to have correct, because that's what's going to actually be injected, and then this is just going to be the label. So you can kind of do that however you want here, and then we'll use that then to inject into our HTTP request. Then we want to add some text outputs, and so I'm just going to come over here and do text, and we're going to attach this to the same NOAA screen. But then notice here where it says message.payload. Now over here, notice the payload is different objects. So we have the station ID. So what I need to do is just come in here and put in .station_ID, and it's got to be spelled identical to the way it's displayed over here. And then I'm going to go ahead and say put in the temperature in Fahrenheit. So what I did was I copied that and then just changed that. And I forgot to actually change the labels here, but and let's just go ahead and do the wind speed. And of course you can put the other ones here. I'm just going to put a couple of them here in the video. This was the airport. Should have labeled them before I closed them, but that's fine. So I'm just going to kind of drag these over here a little bit, and then I'm going to connect these. So what it's going to do is each one of these are pulling the different pieces out of the output here. So now I'm going to go ahead and click deploy, and then once I deploy this, I'm going to have to go to a new tab in my browser and go to the UE. So I go to my IP/UE, and now you can see here's the dashboard I named NOAA, and the selections are down here, and then when I select these, it should actually be outputting the airport code, the temperature, and that was in Fahrenheit, and the wind speed. So in Chicago the temperature is 5, and Akron Canton the temperature is 6.8 degrees Fahrenheit, and in New York it's 28.4. So that's how we incorporate the dashboard. So the last thing that we could do is add a GPIO to turn on the lights. And so I have to do that on the beagle bone. And so I can come over here and I can go to the GPIO, and I can turn on a light based on temperature. So to do that, we would actually have to use a temperature node. So the first part is we'll do the GPIO here, and with the GPIO, one of the things you got to be careful about is the pin number. So you want to pick the pin number that is attached to, like, the blue LED. That'll be the blue wire, and I don't have it in front of me right now, so I'm just putting in a number here, so I'm not sure what it is. You'll have to follow the wire and make sure you get that correct. But notice that the P must be a capital P, it can't be a lowercase. And then you can put a name here and call this blue LED. And then we could look at the next one. So I'm going to copy this and paste it here. And notice the board. If the board's not selected, you'll have to make sure the board is the beagle bone. Okay, so if you click on the edit button, you can see it actually says beagle bone black there, and then I named it beagle bone. So it's probably already there, but if it's not, you'll have to select that. But now I'm going to do the next pin, and again, I'm just picking the numbers here because I don't have the board in front of me to verify the wiring of the LEDs, but this will be like, say, a yellow. And so the idea here is if the temperature is below freezing, then we're going to make it blue. If it's above freezing, we're going to make it yellow. And then what we have to do is we have to read the temperature in Fahrenheit and split it. And so what we're going to do is we're going to use a split node. And we're going to connect the output of the split node between the two. And so if you look at the split node now, we're going to be splitting we don't want the split node, we want the switch mode. So the idea is to switch it between the two. And so if the temperature is below 32, we're going to turn on the blue LED. If it's above, we'll turn on the yellow. So now when we go to the switch here, we can switch based on the properties. So we want, if it's less than 32 degrees, then we're going to do the, we need the number. So if it's less than 32, that'll be output 1. And then we need to add, so notice down here is the add button. And so if it's greater than or equal to 32, then we'll output to the next, to the yellow. But now here where it says property, and by default it's always defaults to the payload, but we actually want to select the flow, and then the flow then is our temperature in Fahrenheit. Okay, so we're going to say flow Okay, so then it'll read the Fahrenheit temperature, and based on that it will direct the output either to the blue or to the yellow. And then to do like green or red, we can then add to those. And so what I'm going to do then is now connect this to the output of this function, so that when you run this, the temperature in Fahrenheit is going to go to the switch, and then it'll decide between the blue and the yellow LEDs based on whether you're below or above 32 degrees Fahrenheit.